Hare Krishna. Welcome to the live session on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. My name is Ashtasakhi Dasi, also known as Archana Krishnamurthy in the professional world. I am the founder of Conscious Living Center, and through this organization, me and some other like-minded friends of mine, we support people in living a conscious life. What do I mean by conscious life? Simply, as the words say, living with more awareness or living consciously, being aware of why we are doing what we are doing, making the choices in awareness, prioritizing everything in our life with that awareness, and living every moment of our life with the right kind of awareness. Before we can become aware of things that we do and why we do, the most important thing is before we start living life, we should become conscious and aware of what life is. Who are we? What is our purpose in this life? What is our ultimate goal? And then start preparing ourselves with education, with skilling to actually live that life in an appropriate manner. Life in brief is nothing but a journey from being a consumer to becoming an effective contributor in the way that you are meant to contribute. That definition goes well for the purpose of life as long as we are living in this current world. But life is much bigger than that. We have been existing for lifetimes and we would be continuing to exist for lifetimes. How do we understand that part? Beyond what we can see, hear, touch, feel, from the senses that we have to perceive and express within this lifetime in this material world. So, friends, as you can imagine, before we can say, let's start living, there's a lot for all of us to prepare ourselves to become fully conscious of who we are. What is our purpose? What are the different faculties that we have been gifted with to live this life? How do we utilize them? How do we manage them? How do we lead them? So that we first become leaders for ourselves. And then, once we understand our real purpose for which we exist and for which we have been gifted, then we can start contributing to the world and be the leaders in our own way in that aspect for the world around us. So, with this overall idea, let us get started today with our session. Every live session that we have on Sundays from 11:30, we take up a particular topic that has, I would say, relevance to all of us, and then try to understand how can we get a better understanding of the subject through the wisdom and knowledge that is in the scripture Srimad Bhagavad Gita, that would help us manage that aspect within our lives and lead our lives in a much better way. So today the topic that I chose to discuss is called fear. Fear. I don't know of anybody in this world who can say he or she has absolutely no fear. Without fear, we are probably not even human. With life, there comes fear. And that fear that we are gifted with from our birth is a defense mechanism that is meant to help us survive all the dangers, potential dangers to us in this world. But sometimes And most often these times, this fear has become abnormally big in our lives. And this is giving rise to almost all kind of issues that you can find around. Everything, believe me, if you go deeper into any negative emotion or any issue in an individual life to what is happening between countries globally, if you go deep down, there is some fear at the core of it. Fear gives rise to insecurity. Fear gives rise to greed. Fear gives rise to, kind of selfishness. Fear gives rise to depression, frustration. It is the fear of unknown sometimes, and sometimes about the known, but we don't know if that circumstance happens to come in our life, how are we supposed to deal with it? And therefore, that aspect of it is still unknown. So, when you look at it, what is fear actually? Fear is a kind of emotion, you know. So, there is a part in our brain just behind the prefrontal lobe, which is called amygdala. And that is the part in our system which is meant to protect us from any harm that we may not be able to perceive otherwise. So, suppose you get into a dark room, or suppose you suddenly hear a loud sound. For each one of us, things may be a bit different. What exactly is the trigger? But we all have our triggers for various reasons. And this, in response to that, even before the other parts of the brain, which have the intellect to dissect the information that is coming, analyze it, and then respond, before this could happen, amygdala actually involuntarily has a reaction. And that reaction is in the form of release of certain hormones that are meant to equip us for a fight or flight response, as they call it in neuroscience. Basically, what it means is we are given the hormones that will give us more energy, more stamina, more strength to either run away from the situation, so that's the flight response, or stand up there and fight against the danger that exists. So think of it in an animal, kingdom. So if there is a deer and there is a lion that comes right in front of it, deer has only two choices to make. One, either run for its life, or second, try to fight with the lion. Now, very quickly, it has to decide between the two as to which one it thinks is the right response in the given time. So, deer has a very little chance of winning over by strength against a lion. So, the best response that probably it thinks fit is to just run as fast as possible from there. And to do that, it needs adrenaline, it needs that kind of sugar, that energy to run as fast as it can. And that is what these hormones do, even in our own body as human beings. So our sugar would go up, our heart would start pumping blood, more. We have more adrenaline in the system. And all this is meant for us to either fight or run from the situation. But this is good as long as we are facing a physical danger. But sometimes our fears are about things that we imagine may happen. It's not happening. We think it may happen. It's dark, so there might be something very dangerous when you get in there, but actually you don't know if it's there or not. And before your intellect can act and take a intelligent decision on the kind of response you should have about a situation, if you allow your amygdala to take over, that's like your animal brain functioning. And there is a particular situation that many of us could get into, which in scientific terms is called as amygdala hijack, which basically means our brain is completely hijacked by amygdala. In fact, not just the brain, I would say the entire body is hijacked by amygdala. And what it does is, in order to take all the energy that it needs for the response it's asking the body to make, it actually freezes or I would say paralyzes all the other parts of the brain and the body. So the energy cannot be used for any other function. So when your amygdala takes over or hijacks your brain, then even if you want, you're unable to think through that situation. You just freeze. Haven't we all experienced it at some time? That is what we mean by amygdala taking over. So the only way really to handle fear is one, to have the right kind of knowledge about what is that emotion, how does it exist, and how best we can manage it. But even if you do Google neuroscience of fear or fear and amygdala or any such thing, you will read a lot about what is at the core of it, and how you should deal with it. But when you come to the most important part of how you should deal with it, you know what is interesting? The interesting bit is that that part deals with living consciously, living with awareness, living with mindfulness, so that you do not allow certain things to happen and take charge of amygdala and all the other parts of your brain, and make sure that your conscious brain, which is the frontal lobe, is in charge of your life more than your subconscious brain or the amygdala kind of part of your brain, because that's not good for you. The moment you understand that and acquire the right kind of knowledge, you will be able to deal with it. So, one is acquiring the right kind of knowledge and becoming aware. But the second thing is more interesting, why we are talking about it in this session, which has to do with Srimad Bhagavad Gita. It talks about meditating, focusing on your breath, and stuff like that, a lot of which is to do with taking control of your senses, and actually engaging your brain into something rhythmic, so that the freezing part of it is managed, and you take your brain out of getting paralyzed, and once again take charge of your intellect. That is one response, yes, to some extent. But if you have to permanently get out of all kind of fear that exists for your physical survival in this world, because remember, it's just not the physical danger that we are facing. We are dealing with stress, tension, pressure that has to do with emotional fear, with mental fear, right? More than the physical fear. Sometimes we are so stressed out mentally or emotionally that we might land up being in an accident because we were not as conscious while driving or walking or whatever, right? So we call upon ourselves physical danger because of the real danger that we are not able to address, which could be emotional or mental. We fear losing our job, we fear losing the means to live our life or livelihood, and therefore we get into all this fear. But friends, the biggest fear in reality we all have, and that's common to all of us, is of disease, old age, disease, and death. Nobody wants to get old. Nobody wants to have diseases. Nobody wants to die. And we all are afraid of all these three things because we really haven't understood how to deal with it. We all want to avoid it, but we have no way to avoid it. If we have taken birth in this world, in this material world, then we have to go through all this. But one thing to know, which I would like to share today for all of you, is whether it is birth, old age, disease, or death, all this your body has to go through, not you. Your mind may have to go through, but not you. You may have to go through it emotionally, but it's not you. Right? So, all these things are temporary and something that your existence has to go through in this material world, but that's not really you. The real you remains untouched, and the real you does not even belong here. The real you is that spiritual self. And the real you exists here only to learn, grow, get matured, transcend this world, and go back to your spiritual world. What does Bhagavad Gita say about fear? Interestingly, when I looked on that, I could find the most relevant sloka as one of the last slokas in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, as many of you may be aware, has 18 chapters and 78 verses. And today, the verse that I'm going to read out for all of you is verse 66 of chapter 18. So, one of the last verses that you have in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And in this, Lord Krishna is almost giving his final statement, decision, advice, suggestion, order, in whatever way you want to take it, to his dearest friend, to his dearest devotee, Arjuna. And this goes like this. Sarva dharman parityagya mama ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayasyami ma suchaha. Which means abandon all types of dharma, come and surrender unto me alone. Do not fear, for I will surely deliver you from all reactions. Think about it, meditate on it, and you will see the relevance of what I'm talking. This is, what Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is suggesting. Since everything that happens to us is a story between our action and the resultant reaction. So every time, if you're even conscious, you would want to be very, very aware, cautious about every action you take because you are worried about the reaction of that action. But then, if you ultimately get tired of it and think that, even if you are so careful, sometimes you feel you're doing everything that you can under your control, but still there is somebody who is getting hurt with something that you're doing all the time. And you don't know what to do. And in those times, what Lord Krishna is saying is understand that your only duty and the right action is to do your part of the role of serving the Supreme Lord with everything that you have been gifted in this world. Do what is right for you as you know what is your dharma, and then surrender yourself to the Supreme Lord. Do not fear of any other reaction. Many of us, we read every day about people going through depression, frustration, confusion. And a lot has to do with our need to feel accepted. We want to be accepted by everybody around us. We want to be appreciated by everybody around us. All of us, like being told something that reinforces the goodness in us. That's natural to us. Sometimes when we don't find that enough, the child within us starts suffocating. And our confidence level starts going down, our self belief starts going down, we start doubting ourselves. And that is when sometimes people go into deep depression. They don't see any value in their life, in their living. They don't see any reason for them to continue their life. And sometimes they take the drastic measure of giving up on their life and taking the biggest decision one can to end their life without knowing that they could not begin their life, that was not in their control, and they do not have the right to end that life. Life is a gift. The best you can do is to live it in the best possible manner with the best consciousness or awareness. You cannot end it. You may end this life, but you will be born again. Your story will continue from exactly where you left it. And since you take a drastic step like this, and again go against your dharma and do something that you don't have the right to do, even taking your own life is equivalent to taking somebody else's life, because both are not yours. Please listen to this very carefully. If you allow others to hurt you, which is not right, you know, or you hurt yourself because you think you're being very humble, very nice, and you're sacrificing your life for others, that is not the right approach. Because you have to value and take care of the gift of life that has been given to you as much as you have to take care of the lives around you. So you have no right to treat yourself badly. This dialogue, when I heard for the first time, I understood, and I got deeper into understanding the whole value of life and who is this gift from and what is the gift meant for. Through my Guruji, by reading Srimad Bhagavad Gita, by hearing, so many of his classes, which elaborated on these aspects, sometimes individually to me and sometimes in a group, that actually changed my life. I never thought of it that way. Whatever happened, I thought, okay, that is what is meant to happen. Now that things are going wrong, maybe that is what I'm supposed to go through. But that is not what I was supposed to go through. I was supposed to learn from those circumstances something, do what I could do to correct it. And beyond that, I was supposed to make some major decisions in my life and move forward for the purpose of my life, which was way beyond just pleasing people around me. And when I did the right thing, everything fell into its place. When I say fell into its place, please don't assume that everything became very rosy and nice and happy ending like a Bollywood movie. It's not like that. But then when you do the right thing, how much ever hard and harsh things may seem around you, you will see that the whole universe comes to your support to help you go forward with that decision. And when the decision you make is not right, you will find you're absolutely alone in the entire universe. When you feel you are not getting the support from not people, but from the universal energy, something within you that's actually giving you that energy, that confidence, that boost, that gut feeling, that intuition. If you're not feeling that, question yourself seriously and see what you need to change. But on the other hand, if you have this very strong gut feeling, that internal courage, that's something, which you can't point a finger at, but you're doing the right thing. But nobody in this world seems to believe in you, does not matter. Well known people, in the human race, we have heard, like, from Franklin Roosevelt to our today's time, Amitabh Bachchan, to so many people that we can think of, even our current Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi ji. They went through hundreds of failures. They went through those phases in life when they were absolutely probably alone, except that they knew that you are never alone. Your creator is always with you. You are here for a purpose bigger than this tiny life. And this entire universe is backing you to do what you are meant to do. When you march on that path, the whole world is with you. Your job, therefore, is not to fear. Like, a child fears falling almost by birth. Few-month-old baby stays away from edge of a bed. It knows it hurts to fall down, even though it has not yet experienced. Animals have that. But just because they fear falling down, and even after they fall down once or twice while trying to walk, do they give up? And if we all were to give up trying to walk because it hurts when we fall, what would have happened? Nobody would be walking. And if nobody is walking, we are not doing anything else, this life loses its meaning. So move on. Don't be afraid. Don't be fearful. Know how to deal with that fear. Know where is your fear emanating from. Know what is your fear. Where is it coming from? How can you deal with it? Get the right knowledge, get the right support. And most importantly, know that you have a creator who has created you, who knows what is best for you. And he has created such a fantastic you who has neither a birth nor a death. You exist always in a blissful stage. Only you don't know you are that blissful state. And therefore, we go through these miserable moments in our life. So, if we can recognize that we are that blissful state and we surrender ourselves to our Supreme Lord, for whom we exist, and do what we need to do according to His command. Let me give you an example. What do I mean by that? In my own life, right from my childhood, I knew I could make friends very easily. I could talk to any age group about almost anything. People found it easy to relate to me, to talk to me. Even as a young child, I could talk to 85-year-old or a 5-year-old with the same ease. And they all liked my company. I was very talkative. So I even participated in a lot of debate competitions, and yeah, most of them I did win. So I could think from all aspects. That is one thing that you need to have as somebody who goes into debate competitions. Sometimes I would go prepared to talk on a topic as for group, and then suddenly I would be told by my school principal, hey Archana, can you shift to the other side, because actually we don't have anybody talking against. And in no time I would be ready to counter my own points that I had prepared and go up on the stage and talk about it. So these were skills. And sometimes those skills were not seen so positively. I could speak all the time so much that my parents, almost like my siblings, had to bribe me to just keep quiet for 5 minutes. Yeah. So talking talking quite sensibly though, and making comfortable, easy relationships was something that was given to me. Then I had interest in philosophy from a very young age. And slowly, when the right age came, I started picking up more books, started reading, found my guru, got into it seriously. And I have been a student since last 15 plus years. And only when things started, and I'm also a very emotional person, I can empathize very easily with people. I've gone through shit in my own life, is one part of the story. And fortunately, with God's grace, with the help of wonderful friends, associates, my Guruji, I have been able to come out of it. But that also allowed me to empathize with what is going on in others people's life, right? So what happened is, at one point in time, I realized that I was being used to be of help to somebody in ways that were beyond me. Now, that dialogue is difficult to understand. Let me just share, in a little bit more detail on what I mean. So I'd be sitting in a coffee shop. Somebody would tap on my shoulder and say, "Hey, can I speak to you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay. Do I know you?" And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "Okay, so then what do you want to talk to me about?" No, it's just that, can we just spend a little time? Can we sit on the same table as you're sitting? There's this, kind of aura around you that makes us feel want to talk to you. And these could be just girls, boys, and this particular thing is two girls actually. They were about in their 20s, and they came to me in a cafeteria like that. And I said, "Sure, please sit down, come, let's talk." And when they started talking, they were opening their hearts up about so many things, their financial issues, their professional matters, so many things, without even necessarily checking my background. And all I could do was just keep nodding my head, but I was hearing attentively. I totally understood what they're saying. I did not know how I should respond, but there are things that naturally came through me, and I reacted the way I did. Frankly, I can't even repeat exactly what I did. And the next thing I knew, after about 45 minutes or 1 hour of our talk, they just hugged me. They had tears in their eyes, and they said, "Thank you so much for being there for us, and you saved our lives." And like this, friends, I can go on about the number of people who claim that I helped them continue with their lives, or give a meaning to their lives, or help them deal with the situation that they were going through. And I barely know what I did, except for just going with the flow. At one point, friends, I realized I was becoming a tool for the universe to be used for them. They wanted help, they craved for that help, help came, and sometimes I happened to be the tool of that help for them. It was not me. Things may have happened through me, but it was not me. Sometimes I'm able to guide people with things that I say that are beyond me. Even I am unable to follow all that wisdom in my own life. And that is when I decided that this is my purpose. This is what I'm meant to do. Let me not try to understand it too much or feel pride about how many people's life I have saved or changed or whatever, because in truth, that's not true. So I felt humbled, I surrendered, and I have allowed myself today to be used by the universe the way it wishes to use me, to support whoever is meant to be supported. This happens to be my purpose, where my gifts of speaking, my gifts of making a trustworthy relationship very quickly with people of whatever age group. I still have friends who are from 8 9 year olds to 75 80 year olds. And I think that's why I was gifted. because wherever I go and spend a little time, I feel good, of course, also. But I realize that it's for them. It's like getting re-energized in their lives. So be it. I don't know how it happens. I just keep myself empty to be the source or to be that medium through which the universe can play its flute. So, friends, with this, I would like to stop the sharing of what I'm doing. I hope it made sense. And thank you for those of you who are online with me. If there are any questions, I request you to please post it in the chat, and I would be happy to take it up. Manjushri, Hare Krishna, very happy to see you. I hope everything is all right at your end. And the good news is today in the newspapers, I saw that finally the curve seems to be a little bit coming down, even for us, about this whole COVID pandemic going on. So I really trust and hope that we will be, moving past this also very soon. But I really, really pray and hope that we all have utilized this time to um, re-engage ourselves with life in a little different way, in a little more conscious way post this pandemic. Yeah, great, wonderful, Anita. Hare Krishna. Good to see you too. So, do you guys, have any questions related to fear, or would you like to share, the kind of fear that you have? Have you even recognized it? Sometimes, we live and we think, I don't have any kind of fear, but it could be very far from truth. Most of us have fears, and because of that, we get insecure. And because of that, we do a lot of things that are not true to our nature, but fear makes us do so. So, yeah, Manjushri, I'm just reading your comment. Sometimes expectation hurts a lot. Is it possible for a human not to expect anything from a loved one? Yeah. When, true love, when you understand the word love, uh, I think it is possible. It's not easy. It's not easy, Manjushri. I'm not saying it's easy, but I think many of us don't understand truly what love is. Love is a unconditional emotion of attachment. And you can say if you're truly in love, your love is so unconditional that it does not even expect reciprocation of love. Forget about anything else. But that's not easy. And in case your love has only expectation of reciprocation of true love, then also it's okay. Because even in the spiritual world, when we hear of stories between Shri Radha and Krishna, you will see elements of jealousy, which is very sweet to hear. But frankly, when you fall in love with Krishna or your own deity of choice, um, he reciprocates so much, so fast, that your expectations become too small for that. So we should know what is love, then we should know who should we love, who is able to reciprocate our love unconditionally. Now look at it, we take a long time in reciprocating the love that our Creator has showered on us. He has given us life, He has given us everything He has given, He is giving us, everything that we need and more, and we don't even recognize His presence around us. What to talk about, reciprocating love. So give time to the loved one to wake up to the love you're showering, but don't stop showering if you truly love that individual. But may sound a little harsh, but to be very truthful, absolute true love is not possible between human beings in this material world, or between any two living beings in this material world. It's all a transaction, more or less. So you just need to know what the other person appreciates. You do that, that person likes you for that. The day you stop doing that, they don't like you anymore. And if you go against what they expect, then they start even hating you. So, true love, if we expect in this world with the living beings around us, we are looking for that reciprocation, and we are showering our love in the wrong place. Therefore, even when you are in a grahasthashram, living in a family life, have your attachment with detachment, do it as a sense of duty, enjoy to the extent you can enjoy, share everything that you can, but know that this is not where you will get the sense of true satisfaction of a reciprocal love ever, ever, in any relationship. So, if you want to experience that, that is only possible with the Supreme Lord, and for that, you just have to get into that relationship. And I'm sure you are practicing certain things, and you have experienced those moments. And just get into that more, know your purpose, know your direction, get yourself busy in that. Reduce your expectation, reduce your involvement, reduce your sacrifices beyond a point. Do what you can do as well as you can do, but don't kill yourself overly. That's not worth it here. Um, Anitash, you are asking, ma'am, can you elaborate on emotional intelligence in these tough times of uncertainty and keeping ourselves grounded? Yeah. Uh, See, there are three very, very obvious aspects to us. One is physical, second is mental, third is emotional. All the three things we are able to actually experience in our day to day life. Now, each of these aspects of ourselves we need to deal with, starting with awareness, then management, and then mastering it. Mastering it, I mean getting them under our control rather than us being in their control. Now, let me elaborate a bit. Physically, usually what we see is I feel hungry, so and I feel I want to have something, so I run and grab that and have it. I am unable to control the desire of my body. Yeah, most of us are in that state. Now, what we have to understand is our physical body also has a physical intelligence. And if we know how to manage that physical intelligence, we can instruct our body to behave the way we want it to behave and not feel the pain, pleasure, hunger, or anything else on its own and impact us. Example would be, we have heard of different people doing various practices, whether they are the Japanese form of art or our tantrics or whatever, where we have seen them mastering their body so well that they can live without water, without food for as long as they wish. They can walk on thorns and sharp stuff on glasses without getting hurt. They can sleep on bed of swords and not get affected at all. Now that is when they have learned about their physical dimension, about the know how to use their physical intelligence, and therefore master their physical self. Similarly, when it comes to mental, we just know we can feel the mental stress, we can feel the frustration, we can feel irritation, we can feel the intelligence of somebody, or sometimes how we are unable to think and stuff like that. But again, there is the physical dimension of it. That is the different parts of the brain. I mean, few minutes back I was talking about, a lot of neuroscience, the different parts of brain and how they release different hormones and what are their functions and what's the conscious brain, what's the subconscious brain, etc., etc. These are physical dimensions, and then there is an intelligence that is beyond the physical dimension that helps us to manage the mental aspects, mental dimension of us. Similarly, for emotions, we feel anger, we feel frustration, we feel depression, we feel whatever else, right? Sad, happy, excited, nervous. All these things are emotions that we feel. But the feeling is one thing, but how do we really control the feeling? We have to then know emotional intelligence, how these emotions can be managed and again mastered. So when you talk about again uncertainty, Anita, one thing I would like to say is I had covered this a few sessions ago about VUCA, the uncertainty world that we are living in. It's nothing new. We were not aware of the uncertainty and we thought things are under control, things are predictable, things are certain. Nothing is certain, my dear. What is certain? Nothing is known. Nothing actually is predictable. We don't know next moment if our breath is there or not. How many instances have we heard, seen, but still we think that's not going to happen to us? We know of our life. It's like a driver who feels, I know I'm in control of my car. So I cannot get into an accident. But sometimes these are the very same people who get into some of the worst accidents that you could have heard of. So we need to be aware of what is going on within us to be able to manage and know the fact that we are a very small speck in this universe being controlled by so many different things, that the best thing we can do is to flow with what's happening by understanding during that flow what is the best we can do for ourselves and for people around us. Why people around us? Simply because it gives us a kind of happiness to be of some value to somebody. That selflessness comes as part of us because we were created to be selfless by nature. We were created to be in service. Only thing is, since we have disconnected with the person for whom we have to be in service, we are trying to serve everybody else and be happy. But that happiness keeps evading us because we are putting our energies with the expectation in the wrong place. But those emotions of service, those emotions of selflessness is natural to us. So understand that you were never certain, you thought you were certain. You thought you did a lot of things that you give yourself credit for. Maybe you also beat yourself up at sometimes thinking you did that mistake and so on and so. But at one point, if you learn how things are not so much in your as much in your control as we feel, and live a life of surrender and of purpose, of our duty, then a lot of things are taken care of for us. This may sound overly philosophical, but trust me, Ati, this is my own um, life story. And for last 15 plus years, I have been doing what I have to do, putting my efforts in the direction I think I should be putting my efforts in. But Sometimes things have worked, and most of the times things have not worked in the direction I have wanted it to go. But sometimes things have been better than that. And I have been taken care of in ways that I could not have imagined or aimed for. I have never slept hungry. I have never lost, my security. I've always had a place to stay. I've always had good food to eat. I've always had good people around me. I've always had something to do that gives me happiness. I've gone through a lot, but these came to me whether I deserved it or not. So, this is when I understood, like the trees around us, like the birds around us, like those animals around us, they are being taken care. For as long as many breaths they're supposed to live, they are being provided. The day their time comes, how much ever green a tree is, it just dies in no second. And that's the same story with us. You may be hale and hearty at the peak of affairs. Like just now, yesterday, I heard a 50-year-old Tata Motors, I think, executive went for 10-kilometer walk, and the last 1 kilometer probably he jogged, and he came home and he just held his fist tight and he collapsed. He died. Did he know that? He was preparing for a long haul, a healthy life. He had no problem, no comorbidities, as they say nowadays. Nothing. No blood pressure, no diabetes, no nothing. My own uncle passed away like that. He was a professor in a university, one of the healthiest of the siblings that my father had. And at the age of 48, he just had a massive heart attack from nowhere. So just know that whether it's your job, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your life, your food, your safety, security, doing insurance is not going to help you. Knowing who actually owns your life and what you should do to actually secure your ultimate life is what matters. And therefore, I would say understanding life as it is, understanding all the dimensions of life, as we were talking even about ourselves, physical, mental, emotional, and also spiritual, which is most important, which is like the foundation on which all these things stand. Your emotional intelligence will work if you have your spiritual quotient taken care of. And that's not something, unfortunately, we can do in few minutes, dear. Even to learn a subject, a small topic, even to learn cooking one item, sometimes to get expertise in that takes time. So when we want to learn about life per se and how to manage our life, which is the biggest topic that we have, we should have, all of us should have done this exercise when we were really young and started our journey then, so that by now we would have learned a lot more. And just by our presence of being the way we would have been with that knowledge, we would have inspired and influenced many others to live that life. But unfortunately, we didn't have that, but never too late. I would say, please, I would say acquire as much knowledge as possible about the spiritual dimension, which will help you deal with all the other dimensions of your life. So that is like putting water to the root of a tree, root of a plant, and every other part gets nourished. We don't have to nourish the leaves separately, the branch separately. The root for you and me is our spiritual dimension, and we need to understand that spiritual, true us, our Atman, that entity. Everything else will be taken care of. Um, So glad both of you related to what I'm saying. One last thing I'll take up today, like basically, yeah, is it Anita or Aarti? I'm get confused between those two names for you because I always see another name that you use in your profile. But anyhow, between doing the right thing and the being kind in doing the same, how do we manage it? is justice to everyone being taken care, because people are still suffering endlessly and some don't know it. Yeah. Um, if you have to choose between doing the right thing and doing the kind thing, it's doing the right thing is definitely more important than doing the kind thing, but sometimes doing the right thing may not mean saying the right thing. For example, sometimes I feel um, when somebody is asking something, and I feel that person is wrong, and I know that that's the right thing for me to make that person aware of his, kind of weakness, I have to also think, will it help? Or is it only my pride, my ego wanting to say that I should, kind of project that I know better and feel good about it, or feel good about being right sometimes? There is a ego, there is a pride associated with always wanting to be right. So we have to be careful of that. So sometimes you have to see, if you say something to such a person and this person is not going to receive it right, it's not going to help that person, it's going to disturb you, it's going to disturb your relationship, may not be worth it. So just move on with a smile. No need to say exactly what you thought you should be saying, because that's not going to have the impact it should be having. So if you can manage to do the right thing kindly, that's the best combination. For example, sometimes when I find somebody not doing something right, and I feel I need to tell, I try to just say that as nicely as possible, as empathetically as possible, with as much transparency as possible, of having no other agenda in me, so that that person can receive it. Because I might want to give something, but if the other person is not going to receive it, then it just goes, bounces off somewhere else. So that's important in my mind. Um, Justice is happening, dear, but justice is happening over a period of time and in ways that are beyond our understanding. And it's none of our business, frankly, about what justice is happening, because we know very little about our own life, what to talk about understanding somebody else's life. So only thing we need to understand is, the only justification that you can logically understand why we are born differently, with different kind of privileges and different circumstances that enable a lot other things to happen in our life, how in spite of being born in a very positive environment, things can go absolutely negatively for you as an individual. The only logical explanation is there is some justice happening to lifetime of things that is beyond you. So if that is true, I think our entire energy should be one, yes, believing that justice prevails. Justice prevails. And that is why he is the only perfect being. Justice may not happen in this world around in the way we perceive, but ultimate justice is happening and will happen. So anybody suffering, we may think only from the perspective of suffering, but that suffering may be just a pathway for them to learn something, evolve into something else. And in the bigger picture, suffering of a small time in this lifetime may mean nothing, but for us, it seems like everything. So our perception may be different to what is really happening in this world. So when things happen to us, good and bad, let's not like actually make it look like the biggest thing in the world. Therefore, it is said, a sane person is somebody who actually achieves that kind of equilibrium to behave in the same fashion, whether he is in the best of his times or going through the worst of his times. Because it's hard to understand what is best and what is hard, harshest of the times that we're going through. In all, I would say God never puts us into a bad situation. We all are going through what we need to go through to learn what we need to learn. But once we learn, once we understand, it's always for our good. And so it is for everybody else. So let's not judge anybody what they're going through. Do what best we can do by empathizing with them, by understanding, by just being there through their journeys of whatever they are going through. But most importantly, focus on ourselves to make sure that this life now we are going to live consciously every moment so that we make the most of what we have today in the appropriate manner. Yes, you're true. People are suffering endlessly and they don't know it. And the fact is, we cannot even help everybody, dear. Help we have to seek from deep within us. And for that, our right understanding has to come, the right time has to come. And when we seek, the universe responds. So sometimes you may be inspired to do and help some people who seem to be suffering. But beyond a point, don't overdo that, because that may really not be helping them. So do what you think is right for you to do, but then trust that the universe knows best, and the Supreme Lord is not putting anybody through anything that is unjust. So they will all come over it, and pray for them, wish for them, do what you can, and know that there is justice, and concentrate on your own life, on doing what is right, and move on. So I think with this, it was very interesting. Thank you so much, both of you, Manjushri and Anita, for asking such amazing questions. I look forward to having you again next week. I myself would like to go through this recording a couple of times so that I also get to understand what we spoke in greater depth, and live my life consciously. I wish and pray for you both to also achieve a life of consciousness, and the Supreme Lord to bless you and your loved ones. I'll see you. Till then, stay safe, stay home. Hare Krishna.